Transitioning into a new leadership role comes with many challenges and much uncertainty. Is it better to quickly make your mark by vocalizing your opinions and taking bold actions, or to quietly observe and gradually introduce changes? In the first 90 days, Michael Watkins, a former Harvard Business School professor, says whether you thrive or falter in your new role depends on your actions early on. Watkins says your priority should be demonstrating your trustworthiness and competence. Drawing on his extensive experience as a leadership development consultant, Watkins provides a roadmap for making your job transition smooth and rewarding. By following his advice, you can avoid common pitfalls, ease into your new role with confidence, and create positive momentum for your career and the company. In this guide, we'll cover the 5 main topics that make up Watkins's roadmap. Gathering critical information. Matching your role to the company's needs. Building strong relationships. Achieving early success. Managing stress. Throughout the guide, we'll consider how other business leaders' perspectives on management compare with Watkins's, including ideas from Gino Wickman in Traction and Julie Zhuo in The Making of a Manager. We'll also link Watkins's principles to additional tools and strategies you can use to make your transition as successful as possible. Gathering critical information. When you transition into a new leadership role, you should take time to gather key information about your new company. According to Watkins, this knowledge will form the foundation for your future success. In this section, we'll first discuss what information you should gather and how. Then, we'll discuss why gathering this information is important. What information to gather and how to get it. When collecting information, start by creating a list of questions about your company's past, present, and future. Its previous and current goals, its performance, and its future ambitions. As you create your list, make sure your questions address not just strategic elements such as operational capabilities, target audience, and marketing approaches, but also the company's history, people, and culture. Especially if you're entering a new company versus being promoted within the same company, Watkins says it's important to learn about the culture so you're familiar with the company's values and communication dynamics. Short-form note. Research confirms that new leaders should seek strategic and cultural information, as Watkins recommends. Although many companies think they do a good job of bringing new executives into the organization, they often fall short. In a global survey of senior executives who transitioned into new roles, more than 2/3 claimed they hadn't received meaningful support and guidance during onboarding. 69% of those interviewed were left with a poor understanding of strategic basics about the company, while 65% reported a poor cultural fit. When new leaders are equipped with critical strategic and cultural information, they can build momentum and reduce the time it takes to reach full performance from 6 months to 4. Once you have your initial list of questions, Watkins recommends identifying the best sources of knowledge that you can tap into with a minimal outlay of time. Seek out information from multiple perspectives both inside and outside the company, which will give you a more comprehensive understanding of your company. Here are some sources that you can reference. Financial reports, strategic plans, and press reports provide information about the company's performance and standing in the industry. Customers can provide insight on how the company compares to competitors. Suppliers and distributors can reveal ways to improve the company's approach to customer service as well as product distribution and quality. Independent analysts can provide an objective look at your company's standing in the industry as well as threats to its viability over time. Current and former staff can provide information on the company's politics and interpersonal dynamics and potential sources of relationship conflict. There are a number of methods you can use to gather information, and Watkins suggests using a combination of methods that match your particular needs. Consider the following options. Employee surveys can give you a sense of employee perceptions and levels of satisfaction. One-on-one interviews provide insight into the challenges and opportunities people see for themselves and the organization as a whole. Focus groups give you an opportunity to gather detailed insights on issues relevant to people who work in a particular area of the company. For example, you could meet with marketing personnel to get clarity on how they design marketing campaigns as well as how they coordinate their efforts with sales and operations. Company tours give you a chance to have informal conversations with staff at multiple levels of the company and hear their concerns. Short-form note: if you opt for employee surveys as an information-gathering tool, be sure to take into consideration survey-taking fatigue, which occurs when employees don't complete a survey because it takes too much time. To increase responsiveness and reduce fatigue, ask just 1 or 2 simple questions, then put the employee's suggestions into action after the survey so they understand their input is essential. How to get people to share information you need. Watkins identifies multiple sources of valuable information that you can tap into as you enter your new position, but he arguably makes some assumptions about your level of preparedness to access and decipher that information. While many new leaders have a robust technical skill set from working as high-performing individual contributors, they may lack soft skills, such as communication, problem-solving, and critical thinking, and other knowledge essential to get accurate information and then interpret that information. Consider how comfortable you are approaching customers or staff members. How will you get them to open up to you so you're getting useful, accurate information? When you reach out to suppliers or analysts, what questions will you ask? Do you know how to interpret financial statements? To fill gaps in skills and knowledge, many leaders go through external manager training programs. These programs focus on soft skills like empathy, self-awareness, navigating change, and relating to former coworkers. They also provide knowledge training in areas like analyzing financial reports and understanding supply chain cycles. Some companies pay for their new leaders to go through these programs, so it's worthwhile to explore this option to ensure you're as prepared as possible to seek out and interpret information. Excellent soft skills, in particular, will give you a huge advantage in your new role. Then, when you meet people in many of the ways Watkins recommends, in one-on-one interviews, in group settings like focus groups, formally in interviews, or informally in company tours, you can quickly cut through discomfort. Some business leaders recommend that you prepare a short introduction that gives people a sense of who you are as well as your intentions. This short pitch can help you win people over and improve your chances of getting key information from them. To create your new leader pitch, include these elements. A statement of excitement. Start on a positive note to relay your enthusiasm and relatability, such as, "I'm excited to get to know you," or "I'm looking forward to working together." Your big picture goals given to you by the company. These are the goals you were hired to accomplish. By sharing these, you claim legitimacy and power. I'm here to achieve X goals and make sure we deliver outstanding support to our clients. An invitation to offer input. Extend a hand of collaboration that shows your interest in their thoughts. I'm really looking forward to your ideas on how we can improve our services. You can expand upon those 3 elements to get a more complete picture of circumstances relevant to you. For example, "While we're talking, I'd love to hear about any concerns you have or challenges you've encountered related to this problem I've been hired to solve." This will further clarify your commitment and openness, which will make people more inclined to share valuable information. As Watkins says, the more informed you are about dynamics in your company, the better prepared you'll be to meet the challenges in your new role. Why gathering information is important. Why are the information gathering strategies above so important? Watkins asserts that gathering information will help you identify gaps between your company's vision or strategic plan and its current capabilities. For example, your company might want to develop new technology that makes products last twice as long, but it may lack the engineering talent needed for that. Or it might want to double the size of its sales team to meet increasing demand, but it doesn't have a recruitment plan in place. Short-form note: many companies lay out ambitious strategic plans but don't build capabilities development into those plans, which leaves the companies with no realistic way to achieve their lofty goals. If you identify such a gap in your company through your information gathering, business leaders recommend that you link each strategic priority to the capabilities needed to drive that opportunity. Then, identify opportunities for teams to create or strengthen those capabilities while actually executing some aspect of the strategy. This ensures that capability development is woven into your organization's growth, instead of being a hope or an afterthought. Additionally, being familiar with your company's history, structure, capabilities, and goals will help you make better decisions. As Watkins says, you might be tempted to make your mark right away by making rapid, sweeping changes, but that approach often backfires. Only with careful thought and research can you ensure your decisions align with the company's needs, thereby paving the way for long-term success. Short-form note: while gathering enough information to make sound decisions prevents rash choices that don't align with company needs, it can also be time-consuming. This can be frustrating for leaders who want, or need, to make progress quickly. So, how can you speed up decisions while still maintaining decision quality? One option is to delegate decision-making power to the employees closest to the decision at hand. For example, you may delegate responsibility for deciding on the next quarter's marketing strategy to the most experienced members of your marketing team. These employees will likely already have the knowledge required to make a swift yet strong choice. Research suggests you must take control of your onboarding process. As Watkins says, proactively gathering information is pivotal to ensuring a successful transition into your new leadership role. If you're not clear about your company's strategy, capabilities, history, and culture, you may fall victim to a failed transition that can derail your career ambitions and negatively affect others in the company. When leaders struggle through transitions, the consequences are huge. Aside from the negative impact on leaders' lives and careers, direct reports are 20% more likely to be disengaged or to leave the company, and their performance is 15% lower than it would be with high-performing leaders. Further, a failed transition costs an estimated 213% of the leader's annual salary. What's behind failed transitions? The main reason is that leaders have trouble navigating organizational politics, with 68% of new leaders reporting issues related to politics, culture, and people. This data underscores Watkins's assertion that leaders must self-manage their transitions and gather the information they need to succeed, particularly information about culture. When leaders transition successfully, their teams almost always succeed. Research shows that 9 out of 10 teams whose leader had a successful transition meet their 3-year performance goals. Matching your role to your company's needs. Now that you know why gathering information is important when you take on a new leadership role, let's look at how to use that information to match your leadership style to your company's needs. Watkins says to begin by using your gathered information to identify your company's stage of development. In this section, we'll first examine the 5 main stages of business development that Watkins describes. Then, we'll discuss the 2 main leadership styles you can apply to match your company's needs. Identify your company's stage of development. Watkins says understanding the current stage of your company's business development is essential to build a successful strategy. The 5 most common stages are: Business stage number 1. New companies. According to Watkins, if you enter a new company that's just getting started, you'll need to acquire the necessary talent and resources to succeed, including finances and equipment. You'll also need to create and implement effective systems and set a clear direction for growth. Short-form note: as Watkins says, accumulating the right resources and knowledge, including a clear sense of your direction and systems that push you in that direction, is essential in new companies. According to research, 90% of new companies that fail do so primarily due to their leaders' bad choices or lack of preparedness, rather than bad luck or unfavorable market conditions. Especially early on, it's particularly important to be adaptable, as much of your time will be spent tweaking your products, services, and strategies based on the initial feedback from customers. Business stage number 2. Struggling companies. Watkins argues that saving a company in serious trouble requires quick, bold action and tough personnel changes. Although team members may feel defeated and pessimistic, they usually acknowledge the need for a new direction, which will make it easier for you to implement change. Short-form note: when you're implementing large-scale change to save a business, one often overlooked area to change is the mindsets of your workers. As Watkins says, workers may see the need for change, but it's up to you to guide them to adopt not just new ways of doing things but also new ways of thinking that support future growth. Often this involves ingraining the value of creative problem-solving, sharing knowledge with colleagues, and taking personal ownership of business outcomes. Business stage number 3. Rapidly expanding companies. Managing a company experiencing rapid growth requires you to recruit, hire, and integrate many new employees and establish processes that accommodate and facilitate growth, Watkins notes. Although scaling up is hard work, team members tend to be highly engaged and therefore more likely to support your efforts to reach a new level of success. Short-form note: to scale up personnel effectively, hire 10 to 20% more staff than you need for teams with traditionally high turnover. Also, build ramp-up time into your hiring plan, as it takes months for new hires to perform at their peak potential. It may also take a while to refine your growth-supporting processes. Finally, to keep your new team members engaged and supportive, set new hires clear goals. Make these goals public to keep each team member accountable. Business stage number 4. Once dominant companies in need of a reboot. According to Watkins, if you are tasked with reinvigorating a once successful organization that's now experiencing a downturn, you'll need to restructure the organization and reinvigorate employees. One challenge is that some employees may not be convinced that change is necessary. Short-form note: to overcome employees' resistance to change, experts recommend taking steps to engage employees to see what their concerns regarding change are and possibly alleviate them. Company-wide emails and intranets are great tools to help employees understand why change is important and ensure they have a way to ask questions and express concerns. By proactively addressing "what's in it for me" in your communication, you can help employees see the benefits of change. Business stage number 5. Flourishing companies. When you enter a thriving organization, Watkins states you'll need to build upon current success by thoughtfully innovating. This will prevent the organization from becoming stagnant and ensure it's poised to offer products and services aligned with customers' changing demands. However, you'll need to safeguard against the risk of taking on too much too soon. Short-form note: other business experts expand upon Watkins's observations, saying there are 2 key things to consider when deciding whether and how to innovate in a flourishing company. First, consider how technology is evolving and how you can use new technologies to connect with consumers and deliver positive experiences. Second, evaluate how consumers are spending money, both what they're buying and what forms of payment they're using. This will tell you whether your products, services, and payment options are still relevant or require change. To avoid taking on too much innovation, experts recommend adopting a set 80-20 formula. Allocate 80% of your resources to existing practices and 20% to innovation. Choose a leadership style that fits your company's needs. Once you've identified your company's stage of development, use that information to determine an appropriate leadership style. Watkins describes 2 main leadership styles. First, a sergeant, Watkins calls this a hero, takes a commanding approach, making rapid decisions and taking aggressive action to move a company in a new direction. When people are experiencing an uncertain or dismal outlook, they tend to respond well to sergeants. Therefore, this leadership style is especially effective when employees are feeling insecure or unsettled, as in struggling and new companies. Second, a diplomat, Watkins calls this a steward, takes a more consensus-building approach and uses more indirect influencing tactics when making decisions. According to Watkins, diplomats take time to nurture understanding among employees about why change must happen and the important role they play in facilitating that change. This leadership style is most effective when people are skeptical or fearful of change, as in once dominant companies needing a reboot and flourishing companies. As Watkins says, you may be naturally inclined to one style over the other, but it's important to adapt to your company's needs. A struggling company in need of drastic change would not be served well by the diplomat approach, just as a once dominant company in need of a reboot would likely perform poorly under a sergeant's attempt to swoop in and aggressively disrupt the status quo. Also, you can accommodate for your weaknesses by making sure your leadership team has a mix of natural sergeants and diplomats, thereby ensuring your company can advance under any circumstances. The changing demands of leadership. Recent changes in the business landscape are requiring leaders to shift away from the sergeant approach that Watkins describes and toward a more diplomat style. One reason for this shift is that industries are becoming increasingly complex and fast-changing, which makes it hard for one person to have all the answers. Another reason is that today's workers want to be engaged in deciding what direction to take, not simply be handed a vision they have no part in creating. Studies show that 60% of workers will consider leaving a position if they feel their work isn't captivating enough. Thus, more business leaders are operating as coaches, facilitators, and catalysts rather than solution generators, recognizing the need to engage workers in determining new strategic directions. However, getting workers engaged doesn't happen without skill, effort, and focused attention. Watkins doesn't elaborate on how to be an effective diplomatic leader, but one essential step is building trusting relationships with your team. As Daniel Coyle describes in the Culture Code, trust must be present for team members to contribute ideas freely. If your workplace lacks trust, team members will become insecure, questioning the importance of their work and their place in the organization. Not surprisingly, given the complexity of business today, many leaders feel poorly equipped to excel in their ever-expanding roles and lead their organization into the future. To address this confidence gap, many companies are embracing complementary leadership, which involves having leaders share their responsibilities with other leaders who have complementary skill sets, a strategy Watkins suggests. Research has found that leaders who use complementary leadership see a 60% increase in their team's performance and a 40% increase in their own performance. Building strong relationships. By now, you know how to choose a leadership style that matches your company's stage of development. Now, let's examine another critical step you must take when you begin a new leadership role: building strong relationships. According to Watkins, there are two key interpersonal dynamics that will fundamentally impact the transition into your new role: your relationship with your boss and your relationship with your team. Building a relationship with your boss. Watkins says it's important to invest time building a strong relationship with your new boss because your boss evaluates your performance and is the gateway to your career advancement. Make sure you're both aligned on expectations for your role by initiating a conversation about what success looks like, both short-term and long-term. Rather than passively participating in these early conversations, Watkins recommends proactively negotiating with your boss to set realistic goals and secure adequate resources. For example, connect the dots for your boss clearly by explaining, "If you want X, I will need Y." Short-form note. To increase your chances of setting realistic goals and getting what you need from your boss, experts offer some tips for negotiating up. First, frame the conversation as an effort to solve a mutual problem or achieve a mutual goal. Focus on how your request addresses a critical need and meets expectations for your role. Second, come ready with several options for how an issue might be addressed, clarify the pros and cons of each option, and offer a recommendation. Third, listen to your boss's responses and ask questions for a deeper understanding of their perspective. Lastly, if your boss says now isn't a good time, ask when you can revisit the conversation or whether you should talk with another leader. In addition to conversations about your role, Watkins says it's equally important to clarify how you and your boss will work together. Gather information from other team members for initial insights into your boss's management style. Furthermore, consider asking your boss directly how they like to communicate and when to include them in your decision-making processes. Short-form note. As you gather information about how your boss prefers to work, you may want to identify their work personality type, which significantly impacts how they manage. For example, an advancer focuses on action and results rather than building relationships and often comes across as arrogant or impatient. To facilitate a smooth relationship with an advancer boss, speed up your efforts and bring forward solutions to potential problems. In contrast, a harmonizer prioritizes a happy and productive work climate above all else. To manage your relationship with a harmonizer boss, do your part to maintain harmony among the team and frame your ideas around team or customer safety, happiness, and stability. As you start work, keep lines of communication with your boss open in case expectations and needs shift over time, advises Watkins. At the end of your first 90 days, consider scheduling a conversation with your boss that focuses on how things are going so far in your role, what's going well and what could be improved. This will help you stay aligned on priorities and next steps, which will support your development and the company's success. Short-form note. Although Watkins recommends checking in with your boss after the first 90 days, that may be too long to wait. Other business leaders recommend weekly or bi-weekly check-ins. More frequent check-ins, they say, help your boss stay informed about your accomplishments and obstacles in real time. This will enable them to secure needed resources and advocate for you with more senior leaders in the company. You can deliver updates via detailed emails or brief emails with bulleted highlights, or in person. Be sure to ask your boss which method of communication works best for them so it occurs as a contribution rather than a burden. Tips to manage up successfully. Although Watkins doesn't use the term, many business leaders describe the practice of proactively building a strong relationship with your boss as managing up. The goal, as Watkins says, is to adapt your behavior to your boss's work style, make their job and your job easier, and add value for your boss and your company. Here are some ways to manage up effectively that Watkins doesn't mention. Celebrate your boss's success. Make an effort to get to know your boss on a personal level, including their career goals. Ask how you can support them in their goals and find ways to acknowledge their successes. Help your boss manage pressure. If you notice your boss dealing with extra stress, offer to help them run a meeting or take on a task to reduce their workload. Support them with new technologies. If you have greater technical capability than your boss, offer to help them learn tools that will improve their efficiency. Give your boss feedback. When your boss does something that facilitates teamwork and boosts morale, give them positive feedback to reinforce that behavior. If they make mistakes, give them respectful critical feedback to help them improve. Practice common courtesy. Simple practices, like saying good morning to your boss and colleagues and using a friendly tone in verbal and written communications, show respect and help foster a positive workplace environment. Demonstrate a positive attitude. Accept compliments graciously, praise others genuinely, and express positivity. Avoid gossip. Be loyal to your boss and steer clear of office drama. Comment only on the good in others. Given the amount of control your boss has over your career trajectory, engage them early and often to build good rapport, align your expectations, coordinate strategy, and monitor progress. As Watkins says, doing so will enhance your job satisfaction and the company's success. Building relationships with your team. In your first 90 days, Watkins says you must build a team with the talent you need to achieve great outcomes, as you can't achieve much on your own. Start by evaluating your current team members to determine whether you need to make any staffing changes. To do so, identify the key qualities you need for each role and assess to what extent each team member possesses these qualities. Short-form note: business leaders use many different tools and techniques to perform the employee evaluations that Watkins describes. In Traction, Gino Wickman shares a useful tool for assessing how well employees match your company's needs. To use Wickman's method, rate each employee on how they demonstrate each quality. Give them a plus symbol, if they are strong in a quality and display it consistently, a plus, minus, plus or minus, if they're average and occasionally display the quality, and a minus symbol, if they're weak and rarely display the quality. Assess each employee against the minimum acceptable standards you've established. This is a simple and effective way to help clarify staffing decisions and cut down on subjective biases. Once your evaluations are complete, Watkins says to categorize each employee based on whether they should stay in their current role, move into a different role, or leave the company. Short-form note: deciding whether to fire, move, or keep someone has potentially serious consequences for both the person and the company, so it's important to do your due diligence when making these decisions. Human resources experts suggest asking yourself key questions such as, when I imagine the perfect team, is this person on it? And, if this employee wanted to resign, would I fight to keep them? Also, avoid quickly writing someone off as a poor performer. Instead, dig deeper to see what's causing their performance to suffer. You might discover the employee is unsure of their responsibilities or never received necessary training. In that case, it might be worthwhile to retain and develop them. As you categorize employees, keep in mind that firing employees can be time-consuming and complex due to legal requirements and the emotional impact on the team. Therefore, Watkins says, always consider alternatives such as lowering an individual's level of responsibility or shifting them into a different role where they may be more effective. Short-form note. Although Watkins seems to imply that lowering someone's responsibilities or moving them, rather than firing them, will protect you from legal implications and protect employees' emotions, that's not necessarily true. Legally, an employee may still accuse you of discriminatory intent if you reassign them or significantly alter their role. Therefore, assuming you have valid professional reasons for reassigning an employee, protect yourself by carefully documenting issues related to employee conduct violations or performance issues as they emerge. Also, minimize the emotional toll of reassignments by providing comprehensive support to reassigned employees, including family support, cultural training, and new site orientations. Improving how your team works together. As you move through your evaluations of team members, consider how you'll approach leading your team. Watkins recommends gathering information about how your predecessor conducted meetings and communicated so that you can identify areas for improvement. Changes to consider include adjusting the frequency or length of meetings and how decisions are communicated. Short-form note. While Watkins focuses on avoiding the negative aspects of your predecessor's approach, you can arguably have just as big an effect by emulating what they did right. Emulating your predecessor's positive qualities can help you maintain productivity and morale on your team. So, as you meet with your team, be sure to ask them what worked well with the previous manager. This demonstrates your desire to be a good leader and will help you determine the best way to work with your team moving forward. According to Watkins, another key factor to consider is how you'll hold your team accountable. Begin by identifying small goals that feed into big-picture goals. Then, let each team member know what goals they're responsible for and what specific outcomes you expect them to deliver. Short-form note. Whereas Watkins focuses on getting employees to do what you want and need, other business leaders focus more on the importance of supporting employees in achieving their career goals. According to Julie Zhuo in The Making of a Manager, to be an effective manager, you must learn about your team members' priorities and aspirations. This helps build trust, supports collaboration, and increases productivity. When your team knows you have their best interests in mind, they'll be motivated to perform well. Therefore, consider helping your team create professional development plans that include their short- and long-term career goals along with strategies to help them achieve those goals. After establishing goals, determine how you'll motivate people to perform well. Watkins identifies 3 main motivational tools. 1. Financial rewards such as bonuses. Incentivize and reward people for excellent performance based on metrics you can quantify, such as an employee's number of completed sales or average time to resolve customer complaints. 2. Non-financial rewards such as recognition, professional development opportunities, or promotion. These can also function as powerful incentives for excellent performance, either on their own or in combination with financial rewards. 3. Inspirational motivation based on a meaningful vision. Connect people with the contribution they're making to society. For example, you're helping older people live happy, independent lives. Research on the effectiveness of motivational tools. As Watkins says, motivating your team members is a key part of building strong relationships and ensuring excellent performance. Let's examine what research says about the 3 main motivational strategies he identifies. For performance-based financial incentives, research shows that while these incentives may motivate workers to be more productive, they can also have negative effects. One drawback is that financial rewards may be inconsistent. For example, if a company performs well one year, it may be able to reward workers with sizable bonuses. But, if the company performs poorly the following year, it might not be able to pay bonuses even though employees worked just as hard. This inconsistency can hurt morale. Also, financial incentives can lead to burnout if employees are rewarded for putting in extra hours. Non-financial performance-based rewards, such as recognition, promotion, or flexibility in work hours, can effectively boost workers' self-confidence, satisfaction, and levels of motivation, according to research. Also, companies with solid non-financial incentive plans are better positioned to attract and retain top talent. Implementing non-financial rewards into your incentive scheme is a relatively easy and cost-effective way to motivate your team to perform. Yet, despite the proven effectiveness of this approach, one study revealed that only 1/3 of workers strongly agreed that they'd received recognition and praise for their work during the prior week. What about motivating people with a compelling vision? Research shows that workers who find meaning in their company's vision have engagement levels of 68%, compared to an average of 40%. Therefore, using a vision to inspire your team members is a smart business move regardless of other incentives you include, as more engaged employees are more productive and effective. Ultimately, while there's no right answer about which incentives to use, it's important to consider the pros and cons of different approaches so you keep motivation levels high, as Watkins recommends. Achieve success early on. By now, you know how to build strong relationships with your boss and team members. Next, let's examine another area Watkins says you must focus on during your first 90 days, achieving initial successes that support your long-term vision and goals. First, we'll discuss how to choose initial successes to pursue. Then, we'll cover how to gain support for your initial success projects by creating strategic alliances. Choosing initial success projects. As Watkins says, securing initial successes will help you earn the trust and support of your team and your boss. How can you identify suitable initial successes to pursue? According to Watkins, your initial success projects should create team-wide and company-wide value quickly and cost-effectively. They should also fit your boss's priorities and expectations for your role. One example of an initial success project is to introduce a new communication platform and train all staff to use it by a specific date. Or, you might aim to secure 5 new corporate clients within the next 6 weeks. If you need more personnel, you might aim to hire 10 new salespeople by the end of the quarter. Traps to avoid when pursuing initial successes. Achieving initial successes can boost your reputation, as Watkins says. However, if you're not careful with how you approach these wins, you could fall into some traps that derail your goals and compromise your ability to lead. Let's examine 5 common traps to avoid as you pursue initial successes. Trap number 1. Getting bogged down in details. In your quest to prove yourself, you may bury yourself in details that don't ultimately matter or that you should be delegating to others. If you don't involve your team and stay focused on the best way to add value to the company, as Watkins advises, you can waste precious time and resources. Trap number 2. Reacting poorly to critical feedback. If you view any critique as a personal attack, you'll quickly alienate your team and take much longer to improve areas of weakness. Trap number 3. Being aggressive with others. If you're too convinced of your competence and the merit of your plans, you may intimidate, rather than energize, your team. Trap number 4. Making assumptions. If you push to implement a plan too quickly, based on what's worked for you in the past, you might overlook critical information unique to your company's current circumstances. Trap number 5. Micromanaging. Given what's at stake for you, you may second-guess your team members' capabilities and commitment, putting your lack of trust on display and damaging morale. So, how can you avoid these pitfalls and pick good initial success projects? The key, as Watkins suggests, is choosing wins that benefit the wider team and align with your boss's priorities. Ultimately, an initial success should translate into cost reduction, revenue growth, or some other tangible business outcome. Also, it must feature substantive contributions from members of the team and evoke a sense of pride among contributors. Here's a diagnostic tool for picking initial successes. The tool includes Watkins's suggestions as well as a few more, such as whether a project will give you an opportunity to learn the strengths and weaknesses of people on your team. Creating alliances that support your initial success projects. Once you define which initial successes you're going to pursue, the next step is to build support for moving the project forward. As Watkins says, even the best leaders can't do much on their own. Therefore, as you prepare to execute your initial success projects, you need to build alliances with key individuals who influence the outcomes you aim to achieve. Which people should you pursue as allies? Watkins says powerful allies demonstrate unique expertise, display a strong sense of loyalty, and control needed information or resources. During meetings or other work functions, observe team members and identify individuals who are well-positioned to support and advance your goals. Try to bring those who exert substantial social influence on board as early as possible, as they can serve as ambassadors to secure support from others. Short-form note. Throughout the book, Watkins focuses on what potential allies can offer you: expertise, loyalty, information, and so on. However, in a 2019 article published in Harvard Business Review, he also discusses the critical importance of understanding what others are trying to accomplish and how you can help them. Reciprocity, he claims, is the most reliable way to build enduring allies. But what should you give back to your allies? In Never Eat Alone, entrepreneur Keith Ferrazzi recommends offering your services or expertise, perhaps to support them in advancing a key project or helping them prepare for an upcoming promotion opportunity. Once you're clear about who you're going to pursue as allies, Watkins says you must work hard to gain their support. Even if someone is currently opposed to your vision, never assume that they can't be persuaded. Try to find areas of common ground and soothe their concerns. Short-form note. What's the most effective way to persuade someone to back your agenda? Research shows you can increase your chances by using particular language techniques. For example, successful arguments use the phrases "for example" and "for instance" more often, as providing specific examples of why your project is important can help clarify its validity. Also, hedging, using language like "it could be the case," is linked with more persuasive arguments. Additionally, using calmer language and providing longer replies tend to be more convincing. Managing stress. Now that you know how to take steps toward achieving initial successes, let's look at how to manage stress as you transition into your new leadership role. As a new leader, you face tremendous pressure to produce positive outcomes quickly. According to Watkins, if your stress level becomes too high, your work performance will suffer, which will undermine your success overall and your well-being. In this section, we'll first review some key warning signs that stress is getting out of hand. Then, we'll share some of Watkins's tips for keeping your stress in check. Identify your negative emotions and dysfunctional behaviors. Watkins says it's important to stay attuned to the range of emotional reactions that arise within you during the transition. If you feel burdened by negative emotions, or if you feel like you're not being effective in your role, stress can easily spiral out of control. Consider whether you're experiencing any of the following. A sense of isolation. Are you relying too much on your existing bank of knowledge rather than making connections with people? Or maybe you're not taking time to get input from others. Procrastination. Are you delaying important decisions because you're fearful of negative consequences? Defensiveness and an unwillingness to adapt. Are you too attached to doing things a certain way, or do you feel an intense need to control others? Undefined boundaries. Do you feel resentful that others take advantage of your time? Do you consistently accommodate others' requests at the expense of your priorities? If you're experiencing any of these stressors, it's time to take corrective action. Otherwise, Watkins says, your work performance will diminish, and your stress will negatively impact other areas of your life. Employee burnout is on the rise. The symptoms that Watkins describes, isolation, procrastination, rigidity, and resentment, are all signs of employee burnout. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. The WHO identifies the main symptoms of burnout as feelings of exhaustion, negative feelings toward one's career, diminished professional productivity. According to research, 52% of all workers are feeling burned out, up 9% in the past 2 years. Managers are slightly more likely to experience burnout than workers, 26% of managers versus 24% of workers. The consequences of burnout are severe. Burned-out employees are 63% more likely to take a sick day and 2.6 times as likely to be actively seeking a new job. In the U.S., 550 million workdays are lost due to stress on the job. Also, Burnout results in lower levels of confidence in teams and reduced employee engagement, which negatively affects job satisfaction, employee retention, customer relationships, and overall success. Given these consequences, it's paramount that you stay alert to signs you're succumbing to excessive stress. As Watkins says, this awareness is critical to safeguard your professional success and your well-being. Establish healthy practices and nurture supportive relationships. According to Watkins, you must establish healthy practices to maintain a positive mindset, mitigate stress, and ultimately transition successfully into your new role. Here are some routines you can use to keep yourself in a healthy, productive state. Build and nurture supportive relationships. Trusted colleagues and mentors can diminish your sense of isolation and provide useful insights. Short-form note: mental health professionals affirm the value of a strong support network for handling stress and feelings of isolation. According to research, mentoring reduces anxiety, increases self-confidence, and fosters feelings of hope for both ments and mentors. Even if you're currently not experiencing high stress, you're therefore wise to proactively take Watkins's advice to establish supportive relationships. Focus on the tasks that are most urgent and important. Avoid getting distracted by emails or superfluous meetings. Short-form note: focusing on your most important tasks, as Watkins recommends, is a popular way to increase productivity that many business leaders endorse. For example, in the 4-hour workweek, Tim Ferriss advises you to focus only on the minority of your efforts that generate the greatest return. This time-saving approach, known as the Pareto principle, states that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. Therefore, you can generate great results even while significantly reducing your efforts. Block off time in your calendar to engage in moments of reflection. Consider challenges you're facing, weigh possible solutions, and plan your next steps. This will help you make thoughtful decisions. Short-form note: Watkins recommends reflecting to improve decision-making. But what does reflection look like in practice? There are multiple methods of reflection, and which you choose depends on personal preference. You might prefer to reflect on paper, writing down your thoughts and ideas, in conversation with others, in conversation with yourself, or on a daily walk. Avoiding the tendency to overcommit. Don't say yes to every request. Carefully assess whether each request is worthwhile. Short-form note: other business leaders offer more detail on how to assess requests, saying you should first gather enough information so you can make an informed decision about whether to accept or deny the request. Ask what your role would be in the project or task, what the possible benefits are, and the ideal deadline. Decline requests that are not allowed, go against company rules, cannot be done, are outside your skill set, or should not be done, given your other commitments. Accept requests that you can do well quickly and that offer significant potential benefits to you and/or the company.